welcome to aefTV. Delighted to be joined by Holger Rothenbusch, the MD and Head of Infra and Climate at CDC. That's some title.
Yeah, it does reflect a large breadth of things that we are doing.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Well, thank you very much for joining us. How have you been enjoying the conference so far? I mean, you're a bit of you're a veteran of these gatherings.
Yes, and I've been to quite a few of the Africa Energy Forums, and I think it's the first conference that I've gone to for the last 2 years. So it's a great experience. It's wonderful to meet people. It's something very different, to having Teams calls where people tell you to go off mute rather than having in-person interaction.
Indeed.
And obviously there's great joy and opportunity that lies there. So it's great. So far, it's been very good.
Great joy and lots of money, kind of like flooding in it. It seems.
Yeah,
to be
which is good, right?
Absolutely,
so, in COP 2 weeks ago, we heard that a lot of money is needed, and there were lots of pledges being made. Some of them going into the trillions. Now, unfortunately, quite a lot of that will not find its way to Africa. But still, I think there's a fair amount of capital that is being lined up to go into Africa.
Yeah.
We are certainly making our contribution to this, and obviously these conferences, they are very much focused on how can we bring that capital into Africa. How can we actually make it work for the continent, for the people, and then ultimately for investors? And that's where always the challenges lie. But that's, as I said, where we are having conversations and finding solutions.
Absolutely. And it feels like there's a degree of optimism. Do you feel like that there is the appetite out there to make these big decisions, to actually, for people to put their hands in their pockets, and what's key with all these things is to get the partnerships kind of going, people working together.
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's definitely appetite out there. I suppose people that would have invested on the continent with a rather short-term view or wanting to create returns quickly, time and time again, those propositions fail. And as we have seen on the infrastructure and on the energy side, some big names that have arrived in the continent have left recently, which makes the same point as I just made over again. You have to take a long-term view, but if you do, and you do with the right partners, there is a huge amount of opportunity. And as we all see, Africa will be the continent of growth for the next few decades. And so it's definitely the opportunity that we as a development organization are seeing, and where we are seeing our role to bring in private capital at scale to ultimately improve living conditions in the countries, to support economic growth, create jobs, and to make a contribution in the combat against climate change. So there is a lot of willingness out there, and as I said earlier, we need to find the right ways how to entice those investors in, how to make them invest successfully, and ultimately then generate some positive returns on their capital whilst they're creating good impact on the ground.
Okay, excellent. So you're talking about CDC now. So you're entering a new 5-year strategy period from January 2022.
That's right.
How has this strategy in the African energy sector evolved in recent years, and how does that sector fit into your recently announced £3 billion climate finance ambitions?
Yeah. Well, CDC has been in the Africa energy space for a very long period of time. So actually, in the 50s, one of the biggest projects that CDC ever supported was the Kariba Dam in today's Zambia. And so this is one of the largest hydro projects in the world still, and that was in the 1950s. Now, since then, we have been investing in that space very significantly, having created Globelec, which is one of the biggest developers on the continent 20 years ago, which we are today owning majority of. And obviously, recognizing that power is one of the key ingredients for economic development across many African countries. So that focus has been there all along.
Should you pick that up from power is the...
Yeah.
So power is one of the key ingredients for economic growth across many African countries, and hence the reason for us to focus on this. And we continue to do that. So in the next 5-year plan, we are indeed committing to invest £3 billion in climate finance. The majority of that actually is going to be in power. It is going to be in renewable energy, mainly. It is grid connected, so utility scale, but we're also looking at decentralized solutions, and we are looking at transmission and distribution, which is critically important to make the energy generation, which we are also focused on, ultimately being transmitted efficiently to reduce the losses and to allow for the integration of more renewable energy as compared to what is possible today. So energy is going to play a continued, very critical and central role to our strategy in Africa.
Okay, and so in light of your recent $75 million partnership with Rockefeller's GEAPP to promote distributed renewable energy in Africa, what makes you excited, and how does that fit into your vision for the African energy sector?
Yeah, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, well, there's a mouthful for you, is a great initiative that was recently announced at COP in Glasgow. We are very pleased and proud that we are one of the implementing partners of the initiative, and it's funded by Rockefeller, IKEA, and the Bezos Foundations, which is a pool of capital on concessionary funding, but also engagement at the policy level, so TAs and support for the enabling environment in African and other emerging market countries. So it's not only in Africa, but also. And this is very much supporting our focus that I had mentioned earlier on the so-called decentralized renewable energy space, which is ranging from solar home systems, the rooftop solar businesses that have a phone charger and a lantern, going over to mini grids, including then CNI businesses, so rooftop solar companies and such like. So this space is of critical importance globally, but certainly in Africa as well, certainly with regards to making a contribution to energy access, as a very significant number of Africans are still without access to power. And many of those people will only, in a very long time period, and some possibly never, be connected to a main grid, rather than there will be decentralized grids. And those models need to be created. Those businesses, they need to be supported in its early days to be trying out business models, because there aren't that many around across the continent that have been successfully implemented. So we are looking to support pilot programs like we are doing, for example, in the northern DRC, Moi Power, in 3 cities in the northern DRC, a subsidiary of ours, Gridworks, is developing those mini grids with support from the Rockefeller Foundation. And those are pilots, those are examples that we are trying to implement and to showcase that these things can be done, and then to replicate them in order to reach and connect more people across Africa and give them power at affordable rates, and ultimately displacing biological fuels like wood or kerosene, which obviously are environmentally very negative. So that is one of the instruments that we're going to be using in this space. We are investing directly in that area as well. But overall, we do have the aspirations to deploy around about $1 billion into decentralized renewable energy over the next 5 years. And a lot of that is going to go into Africa.